Hello, and welcome to So You Think You Can Rule Persia, the podcast where we rate and review all the rulers of Persia, from Diocles to Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. I am Sariel, and my pronouns are they, them.
And I'm Umberto, my pronouns are he, him. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 94, episode 2 of season 2, Ali ibn Abi Talib.
Exciting.
A extremely important figure, so important for everything that's going to happen. And we get to find out, why is he so important? What is his deal? Why do people like him so much?
I might need a recap from last time, since it's been, in real life, it's been a little bit since we recorded. However, I remember it being an extremely eventful episode. We took very long,
yes.
And so many things happened. Not only regarding the empire, but also things that are extremely important for the start of this new religion that, you might have heard about, called Islam. So, yeah, we're still in the early years.
Yes, we're still trying to figure out what exactly Islam is and what does this mean and what's going on.
And then we had the first death of a Muslim caused by a Muslim, correct?
Yes, basically. Uthman, the caliph, was murdered by fellow Muslims. And we're going to have to deal with the aftermath here because what happens once the caliph's been murdered by rebels? What do we do now?
Yeah.
So let's recap briefly Uthman ibn Affan's episode from last time. So, broadly we saw that, Islam was born under the Prophet Muhammad. He converted a bunch of people. He had a bunch of early companions that followed him, including Uthman. Then the caliphate united Arabia after Muhammad's death. Then we had Abu Bakr become the first caliph. Somewhat controversially, we'll find out why today.
Mm-hmm.
Then he was succeeded by Umar, who then conquered all the Sassanid Empire, or most of it, and a large portion of the Roman Empire. And then afterwards, we had Uthman. Uthman essentially standardized the Quran, tried to sort things out in the empire, continued the expansion, not personally, but, delegating. And then the main thing with Uthman, the one that we need to worry about now, is that towards the end of his reign, there were a bunch of malcontents because he seemed to be favoring his family, the Umayyads, more than others in the caliphate. This rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, and eventually rebellion grew and grew until eventually Uthman's house was besieged, and he refused to kill any fellow Muslims, but eventually the rebels broke into his house, killed him while he was reading the Quran, and this is where we are right now. So how do we deal with the aftermath? Because an interesting thing is that Uthman, last episode, had to deal with the murder of his own predecessor. This time it was by a Zoroastrian, but still, it was still a murder. And the way Uthman handled it was by essentially saying that it was better to be politically expedient than to be religiously strict. So he said that, the murderer could pay a fine, but would not be put to death himself, because otherwise he would be perpetrating a cycle of violence that would continue forever. So now we'll see, what does Ali do for the case of Uthman for his murder? So we'll get to find out what happens then. But first, Sariel, we have that Ali is extremely important with the early tale of Islam. And so we have a lot of his life, which is early life, before he actually becomes caliph. So we get to find out what's his deal, what's going on. Okay, so let's begin. So Ali was born sometime in about 600, which makes him about 30 years younger than the Prophet Muhammad. But he is extremely tightly tied to his story. There's also a tradition that states that he was born in the Kaaba, which adds an extra bit of holiness to him.
Oh.
Do you know what the Kaaba is, Sariel?
I do not. Please tell me.
Very well. The Kaaba is this shrine in Mecca, which essentially contains this holy black stone that came from heaven.
Oh, right.
Which was amply worshipped by a bunch of pre-Islamic peoples in around Mecca. This is essentially what the worship around Mecca was based on.
Mm-hmm.
And it was eventually adopted into Islamic tradition as essentially the holiest of holies, because it was sort of a sign from God. And we'll see that it'll be very important throughout. But it is, if you've probably seen images of it, is this big cube in the center of Mecca covered in black silk.
Yep.
Yes, that is what the Kaaba is. And according to certain traditions, Ali was born in this temple. So,
wow,
very important. So Ali is called Ali ibn Abi Talib because he is the son of a man called Abu or Abi Talib, who was the leader of one of the clans of the Quraysh. Also, this made Ali a cousin of the Prophet.
Right,
so,
yes.
Very important, very intimately tied to Islam.
I remember that we mentioned that some of these people are literally the family of the Prophet Muhammad.
Yeah, exactly. They're very tied. And we can see that Ali is possibly the closest relative to survive the Prophet because of reasons we'll see.
Okay.
Because, yeah, something that's interesting to note is that Abi Talib, Ali's father, became somewhat of a father figure to Muhammad himself and adopted him after his parents died. So Muhammad's parents died when he was relatively young, so Abi Talib adopted Muhammad himself. So this makes Ali not only a cousin to the Prophet, but also his adoptive brother.
Okay.
And yeah, unfortunately for him, Abi Talib fell on hard times, so Muhammad, to repay his debt of gratitude, decided to take care of Ali for him. So of course the two became extremely close. And at this point then, when Ali himself was 10, Muhammad received his message from God and became a prophet. And Ali was one of the first people to convert to Islam at the young age of 10. And according to some sources, he was the first man to do so, with the absolute first person in total being Muhammad's wife, Khadija.
Okay. We love a supportive wife.
Yeah, so it's all very good to be connected. And yeah, something that's interesting to note here is that Abi Talib never publicly converted to Islam, although some believe he was privately a Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
And he was often used in theological arguments as a debate as for what happens to a virtuous man who dies without accepting Islam.
Right.
So, does he get to go to heaven? Does he not? Does he have to be a Muslim, or, do the intentions count? And the fact that he wasn't a Muslim is like, well, we'll forgive him because, he was so close and so helpful to the Prophet that surely that counts as a pass. But other people would say, no, he wasn't a Muslim, that doesn't count.
Yep. All right.
Then, in 622, when violence escalated in Mecca and Muhammad was forced to flee the city, Ali acted as a decoy. Because during the Hijrah, when Muhammad had to flee the city to go to Medina, he left Ali behind to sort of guard his place. And so essentially, Ali stayed in Muhammad's bed, pretending to be the Prophet.
I see.
Just waiting for the assassins to come.
Yeah.
And when the assassins broke in, Ali just leapt out of bed and fought them off with his sword and just managed to chase them away from the house of the Prophet so that he could be saved. Not only that, but in the next days, Ali then decided to close up Muhammad's business as a merchant in Mecca. And only after that was done, after he'd done all his duty, did he leave for Medina to join the Prophet.
Understood.
So risking his life to make sure
he
that
really
properly done.
believed in the Prophet. Maybe not in a religious sense, but as a person who shows loyalty and who cares.
Yeah, absolutely.
For one another. Like, clearly, it was important to him.
Yeah, and then once Ali arrives finally to Medina, that's when he gets married. He's like 22 at this point.
He did all of that at 22. Oh my god, okay.
Yes, he is a young man. He converted at the age of 10.
Sure.
And he is going to continue to be very impressive. Because at this point, the Prophet Muhammad receives an order from God, according to Shia sources mostly, that tells him that he should give his daughter, Fatima, in marriage to Ali. And so he does. And according to Shia sources, Fatima is Muhammad's only biological daughter,
Mm-hmm.
although others may or may not disagree. And so, after marrying Fatima, Ali then would have 2 sons, which are the most important ones to remember, called Hassan and Hussein. These will be extremely important, especially for Shias in the future. We'll find out why.
Literal descendants of Muhammad.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Because something important to remember is that Muhammad will not have any male descendants
Yeah.
that survive into adulthood. He will
Yeah.
have some sons, but they won't live to adulthood. So these sons of Ali, Hassan Hussein, are the only male descendants of the Prophet in the generation immediately afterwards. So, as you can imagine, it's important.
Yeah.
And yeah, here in Medina, Ali was also chosen by Muhammad as his spiritual brother in a great ceremony where Meccan exiles were bonded with their Medinan hosts. So now, not only is Ali Muhammad's cousin, but also his adoptive brother, but also his adoptive son, but also his son-in-law, but also his spiritual brother.
Okay.
So, a lot of reasons to think Ali is important. And yeah, in the next years, we have the great wars for the fate of Islam against the Meccans. So, during the conquest of Arabia, Ali became renowned for his bravery in battle. To give a few examples, in one battle, he is said to have killed 1/3 of the enemy army on his own.
Sure.
Another time, when assaulting a fort, the iron door was too strong for anyone to get through. Ali ripped it off its hinges and used it as a shield to beat the crap out of everybody inside the fort.
Heck? What kind of person is this? How?
He is extremely buffed. But he also has magical artifacts because,
of course,
he was known to wield a twin-tipped sword given to him by the Prophet Muhammad, who himself had received it from the Archangel Gabriel.
Okay. I mean, it doesn't get cooler than that. A twin tip, can you explain how that works?
That is a valid question.
Yeah.
Because this blade, called Zulfikar...
That's a badass name. Amazing.
It is twin-tipped. It depends on iconography, because some people see it as a double-bladed sword, so essentially it just has 2 cutting edges.
Yeah.
Other people see it as having, 2 tips like a horn or like a snake's tongue, essentially. Yeah. And then there is a relic of this, which is claimed to be the original over in Istanbul, which I saw, which is fun.
Ooh, fun.
Which is essentially, it looks like there are 2 swords tied together through metal bands at the center.
Each pointing one way, or?
So there's 2 separate blades pointing in the same direction.
Okay.
There's a bit of a space in between them, and there's metal bands connecting them along.
Oh. That's so cool. Wait, so they're facing each other vertically?
Yes, that's right.
Like the flat side to the flat side, just with a bit of space between them. So you would do 2 cuts at once.
Yeah, basically.
It's so cool.
It is quite cool, yes. And the Archangel Gabriel gave it, so that's pretty cool.
I wonder, I love when we have things that are open to interpretation because we just have a vague description of them.
Mm-hmm.
And you can technically apply it to a lot of different things. I love. Yeah, I love that. That's so cool. Nice. Awesome.
So that's pretty cool. And and apparently Ali was so skilled in battle that during one conflict, either Muhammad or the Archangel Gabriel said, "There is no brave young man like Ali, and there is no sword like Zulfikar."
Yeah, that's cool. How you make a legend, I guess.
Yep.
So impressive.
And then Ali was also entrusted with really important work. He's not just a warrior, he's a scholar and a scribe and a religious man.
Right.
Because he was entrusted with work such as being one of the scribes for Muhammad to write down the Quran.
Oh.
And he even proclaimed one of the surahs in the Quran, which is, again, a very Muhammad-based thing to do. And he's doing it because he's impressive. And he was also the one chosen to destroy the idols that were in the Kaaba. Because when eventually the Muslims arrived in Mecca, they found the Kaaba had a bunch of pagan idols. Ali was the one chosen to destroy them and show the triumph of Islam over these other cults.
I don't love that personally, but I get it.
if you're founding a religion, you kind of need to.
You want to be like, no,
need
this is the one, guys.
Yeah, exactly. And as we've seen, Ali is really devoted to Muhammad. He is very much tied.
Yep.
But then, Serial, we come to the event of Ghadir Khumm, which is very, 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 very controversial.
All right, I'm ready.
But it's important to understand what's going on.
Yeah.
Because this is the last year of Muhammad's life. They've won, they finally made it, and Muhammad is doing one last pilgrimage to Mecca with his followers, and he is there to just, say farewell. And during this pilgrimage, he stops along the way at Ghadir Khumm to deliver a sermon. In the sermon, he said, "He whose Mawla I am, Ali is his Mawla." Now, I have not translated the Arabic word Mawla because that's the problem.
I see. As always.
Yes. Because it can have multifaceted meanings.
Yeah, as always meaning, there's a lot of things that get lost in translation and we're constantly arguing about it.
Yes. Because I could paraphrase it in English very,
Yeah.
limitedly, take all the pinches of salt you need, sort of as father in English, because you can interpret it sort of as a leader or master, but also as an ally or friend.
Okay.
So the two connotations you can have is Muhammad is saying, if I am your leader, then Ali is your leader as well.
Oh, I see.
That's one option. The other option is, for those to whom I am your companion, your friend, Ali should also be your companion and friend.
Mm-hmm.
It's important that we know which one is correct.
Yep.
Because we have two groups of people that have different opinions. Because the Shia Muslims, which aren't a thing yet but will become one within this episode, believe that this is Muhammad talking to the people. He's on his last legs. He's telling everybody, Ali is my heir. I want him to succeed me when I'm gone. I want him to take charge of the Muslim faith.
Those who follow me, so shall follow him, basically.
Correct. That is what he is saying according to the Shia Muslims.
Yeah.
However, the Sunni Muslims just believe that this is Muhammad expressing his appreciation for Ali and for all his service and telling the assembled crowd they should give him the same respect as they give the Prophet, but Muhammad did not go so far as to nominate a successor.
I see. Okay.
So, difficult. This is all a matter of faith, so we're not going to solve it here, because depending on what branch of Islam you subscribe to, you will have your own opinion on what did the Prophet mean with this word. It's complicated.
I'm sure both have repercussions and ramifications that make people sway one way or the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And although we are told that in his last days, Muhammad asked for a pen and paper to write something, and I quote, "So when I am gone, you will not go astray."
Right.
But his followers told him to save his strength since they already had the Quran to guide them. This eventually broke out into an argument between those present, and Muhammad was like, "You know what? I'm tired. I'm dying. Just
you know what? I
just
tried.
leave me be. This is fine. You know what?
What do you mean? Why did you deny Muhammad a wish of pen and paper? Or
Again, this is a disagreement between Sunnis and Shias. The Sunnis believe this was genuinely done out of concern for the Prophet's health, and they were like, no, just you're very sick. Just take care of yourself. While the Shias believe that, oh no, the enemies of Ali were trying to make sure that he wouldn't.
Yeah, this was deliberate.
That he wouldn't get nominated as heir, and this was deliberate.
I see.
So then, the Prophet dies in 632, leaving the open question of who should succeed him, and how would this whole caliphate even work? Three main factions sprung up, with the people of Medina about to proclaim their leader as caliph, but this would not be acceptable to the Meccans who had been the closest to Muhammad from the start and had family ties to him. And then there were arguments between different candidates, Ali being suggested as a possible heir. But a split in the community was avoided when Abu Bakr, Umar, and others rushed the meeting of the Medinans and managed to make Abu Bakr caliph partly with the display of force and partly because he was everybody's second choice, so everybody was like, yeah, fair enough. I suppose.
I guess
He's
we
a
can
good
agree on
compromise
that.
candidate. But where do you think Ali was during this discussion? Because he wasn't present at the meeting. What more important thing could he have been doing? The Prophet has just died.
Yeah. I feel like that's much more important. I don't.
Yeah. In his extreme devotion for Muhammad, Ali was not at the meeting to decide who would become caliph because he was preparing his friend and close family member's body for burial.
Funeral. Yeah. Makes sense.
And so he missed all this. And then eventually he just got a message saying, hey, by the way, you've not been chosen. Good luck.
Cool. I mean, of course, it would have been so wrong if he had been at that meeting and not burying his friend.
Exactly. That is extreme. It's logical that he would do that, but also you can understand how he would be displeased by the fact that he who was so closely tied to the Prophet wasn't made successor.
It seems like an odd choice. Very strange.
Like, again, if you looked at a generic royal family, if this was the Roman Empire, then the son-in-law, adoptive son, adoptive brother, and cousin to the last ruler is a pretty obvious choice of successor.
Yes.
But hey.
What the heck?
And then we get another case of dispute between Sunni and Shia. Because according to the Sunnis, Abu Bakr then went to Ali to ask for his allegiance and explain the situation. So Abu Bakr went to Ali and said, hey, listen, I know you were keen on maybe being the successor. I know you had a good shot at it. But if I didn't make a decision, the caliphate was going to split and everything that we've worked for all these years would have been for nothing. So I did what I had to. I hope you understand. And Ali agreed, yes, of course, I understand. I would have liked to be there, but I understand that the situation was problematic. So you did what you had to. I respect you. I will follow you. And that the only reason he hadn't given his allegiance earlier is because he was taking care of the daughter of the Prophet and his wife, Fatima, who was pregnant, and also the Prophet's body in particular. So that's why he hadn't rushed to Abu Bakr to give his allegiance. So it was nothing personal, but there we are.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Fatima would later die in childbirth. However, Shia sources give a different picture.
Content warning for this episode regarding violence toward a pregnant person.
If you don't want to hear this, then skip the section. Shia sources say that a mob of Abu Bakr supporters, led by Umar, went to Ali's house and threatened to burn it all down if Ali didn't submit. They then also went and beat Ali's pregnant wife Fatima so harshly that she miscarried and eventually died.
No.
And Ali, at all this, said, please stop hurting my family. I'll do anything. And he said, sure, I'll accept whoever is caliph. Just go away and leave my family alone.
That's ridiculous.
So yeah, also considering Fatima is the daughter of the Prophet.
Yeah, what?
Yes. So there are different sources. As you can tell, it's a different vibe between the Sunnis saying, yeah, no, I totally understand, this is fine. You did what you had to. And the Shia sources saying, no, Ali was threatened to do this and his wife was killed.
He never agreed and was submitted to horrible torment and trauma.
Yes.
Which is intense.
Whatever the case may be, whether more or less violent, depending on which branch of Islam you subscribe to, Ali eventually accepted the state of affairs, but he did not participate in public life for a while. Though he mostly kept to himself, it's likely that he did not generally approve overall of the policies of the first two caliphs, since if you remember during the election that we covered last time, he did not promise to uphold their precedents when he was up for election. So we saw this in the last episode, but eventually Abu Bakr and Umar succeed each other, and Ali is up for election to the caliphate as the third caliph, but ultimately he does not want to follow in the footsteps of Abu Bakr and Umar. He wants to chart his own road, following Muhammad the way he sees it, and so that way he is essentially put in second place, and Uthman becomes caliph in his stead. As we saw in the last episode, Uthman started to see cracks appearing in the Islamic community, with him strongly favoring his own family, especially Muawiyah, the governor of Syria, who you'll want to remember because he'll show up in the story soon. And this resulted in a rebellion against his authority. And in the meantime, Ali didn't really agree with Uthman, but he tried his best to keep the Islamic community together by, for example, refusing to be made caliph by the rebels who wanted to overthrow Uthman. So you remember that they approached Ali saying, hey, we'll make you caliph if you overthrow Uthman. Ali said, I want to be caliph, but not like this.
Yeah.
So then we get to the point where Uthman's house is besieged and the caliph is killed. And this leaves open the question of who should lead now? Who should be caliph?
Right.
And well, the Egyptian rebels, the Medinans and the Meccans, invited Ali to take up the role. Ali hesitated at first because, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
I would hesitate too. According to most sources, to be fair, while certain other sources that are more hostile to Ali say that he just leapt to the opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we seem to keep getting the division between he always wanted this and there were other things more important to him. Sort of.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
In any case, after a few days, he took up the role and he became the fourth caliph. Although, according to Al-Tabari, he said, and I quote, I have no need to be caliph. I am with you anyway, and whomever you choose, I will be satisfied. So just make your choice. Another interesting feature about Ali's proclamation is that he makes a point of receiving his oaths of allegiance publicly, as opposed to what had happened after Muhammad's death with Abu Bakr, who was chosen in private before he ascended to the caliphate. In his first address to the people, Ali proclaimed that he would stop those who had abused public funds by directing them to their own enrichment, and he would reclaim everything that they had gained unjustly. And Ali himself followed this principle, living as caliph much as he had lived before, sharing the burdens of his people. On this topic of being a very parsimonious and temperate man, there's a story where two men wanted to talk to Ali, and Ali asked the subject of the conversation, and the men said it was a personal matter. At that point, Ali then extinguished the lamp he had on and turned on a separate one, saying that the first one was paid for by the state, and the second one was his own, and he would use that one for his private conversations.
Mm-hmm.
He also stated that taxes should be collected, but only insofar as it didn't cause people to sell off their livestock or personal belongings to actually pay. In this, he was said to eat the same food as the poorest people to ensure they were treated properly. Also, just an interesting general note, it's worth noting that he rarely ate meat, unlike most of his compatriots.
Mm-hmm.
But then we come to the main problem that is going to dominate Ali's caliphate.
Oh, all the previous problems were just like vibes.
Previous were just leading up to it. Now he's here. Now he's become caliph. What does he do? Well, the problem is that, well, Uthman has been murdered, but the murderers have helped proclaim Ali caliph. What do we do with the murderers? What do you think Ali would do, Sarah? Because you remember in last episode,
yes,
when we were talking about the murderer, the chain of murder of Umar, Ali was favorable to killing the murderer because that was the letter of the law. That's what should be done.
Yes.
Do you think he is going to follow this as well?
Well, if that was his...
Or do you think he is going to say, well, these are different
That's
matters?
interesting, because last time it was a conundrum in the sense of it felt like an unjust punishment in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And Uthman decided not to, right?
Uthman decided to just have a fine be paid.
Yeah.
Just so the cycle would stop. Which wouldn't be following the law, but it
followed more of the
politically
religious
expedient.
belief of like who he wanted to, or like what he wanted to bring forward and reward, I guess. Well, if Ali was more interested in following the law, something tells me that would like be probably what he would go for. But I don't know if Uthman's behavior as previous caliph like impacted him in a way.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. Well, we'll find out, because also I thought you were going to go in a different direction. We will go in that direction in like 10 episodes.
Great.
Which is essentially that, can you kill a caliph if he's done bad
Oop,
things. Is that
I
legit?
see. Yeah.
That's another conversation for
Good
another time.
point.
But yes, definitely
Mm-hmm.
will be.
Like
Yeah.
laws for everybody, or laws for thee
Yeah.
but not for me. How does it work?
Yeah. So the problem is that Ali was faced with this issue
Yeah.
because the rebels who had sort of put him in power wanted all of the Umayyad governors that were the family of Uthman and sort of the cause of the rebellion, they wanted these governors gone immediately.
Mm-hmm.
While Ali's advisors said, maybe don't. These are all extremely powerful men. They control
Mm-hmm.
most of the armies and most of the regions in the caliphate. Maybe you just do it one at a time or just slowly and just be careful, right?
Yeah.
Especially about Muawiyah, who was the governor of Syria and had been appointed back in Umar's time. So he was the most powerful of the Umayyads,
Mm-hmm.
but he also wasn't appointed by Uthman, so like doesn't count as nepotism if you're not related to the guy appointing you, even if other people got the position through nepotism. So, should we just lump him in with everyone else and kick him out, or no? It's kind of messy.
Mm.
But Ali believed that his hands were tied because the people who were around him in Medina killed the caliph who didn't do what they'd said. So Ali thinks, well, it's not like I have much of a choice. I should just kick these people out. And it's better to replace them even as a matter of principle. It might not be the most, the best political decision,
Mm-hmm.
but on a matter of principle, it's kind of important that we just get rid of these people. But the consequence of Uthman's death came quite quickly afterwards. Because one of Muhammad's wives and the daughter of Abu Bakr, a woman called Aisha, was still alive at this time, and she disliked Ali personally, since Ali had recommended that Muhammad divorce the young girl. Because she was
Right.
very, very young
Mm-hmm.
at the time. Depending on the source, she was, at the time of the marriage, she was either 6 or 12. So Ali recommended this divorce, and Aisha never let it go, apparently.
Yeah. That's fair.
Aisha decided to oppose the election of Ali as caliph and was joined by several other prominent figures who were part of the committee that elected Uthman. And they disagreed with his favoring of the Umayyad clan, but they wanted power to remain within the Quraysh tribe. So they disagreed with this dismissing of governors that Ali had done. And also, crucially, all these people, or at least a significant amount of these people, are those to whom the Prophet Muhammad had promised paradise. So they're now in a conflict with Ali, who was also promised paradise. Let's see how this ends.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, the Umayyads, the family of Uthman, gathered in Mecca with some of the deposed governors. There, they were joined by some disgruntled tribesmen who hadn't been given the desired jobs by Ali, and they blamed him for Uthman's murder. They said, well, Uthman was murdered and you become caliph. I mean, surely you were in on it. You were part of this. You're clearly illegitimate.
Mm.
So you see why it's a bad look not to punish the murderers, but
Yep.
also it's kind of difficult because they're the ones surrounding you.
Yeah. Oops.
Yeah.
So who's going to enact, like, if you
Yeah,
want to
it's-
punish everyone around you, but, like, you need people's support and someone who will,
so how do you
you
deal
know-
with this? Yeah.
So you have the Praetorian Guard who, like...
Yeah, exactly. It's just entirely a
yeah,
bad
you
choice.
need some sort of support either from the other political figures around you or from, like, a military force or
Yeah.
the people.
And-
Like...
Yeah, it's difficult because everybody is going to be angry for some reason because it's just very difficult to rule, especially so soon after a catastrophic succession. And yeah, so all these rebels, especially the ones guided by Aisha, travel all the way to Basra in lower Mesopotamia, where they occupied the city and made it their fortress. And it is here that we get an omen about Aisha, because she took to screaming when she heard dogs barking nearby in a place that she had been told was called Hawab. This is because Muhammad had told his wives that dogs would bark at one of them at Hawab, and that wife will be in clear error.
Interesting. This is a weird omen.
Yes. So Aisha's arrived at this place, the dogs are barking, she remembers Muhammad said that the wife, in this case, will be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So then Ali gathered an army in Kufa, the seat of the governor of Iraq, founded in recent years close to the site of the Battle of Al-Qadisiyah. And there he tried to negotiate with the rebels. He tried to speak with them. He tried to get an understanding, but it went nowhere. In the end, a battle broke out. The battle called the Battle of the Camel, because Aisha was on a camel in the middle of it, essentially supervising what was going on. And in this battle, Ali won and managed to defeat the rebels. Ali himself is said to have ended the battle personally by cutting the tendons on the camel that was carrying Aisha, making it clear that she had lost the battle. Aisha herself was forced into her retirement while her allies were killed, closing up this chapter. Although, again, this was an extremely tragic event because all these people had fought together a few decades ago for Islam, and now they're in this deadly conflict.
This is wild. Especially, obviously Islam survives this and makes it to be one of the main religions nowadays. But this is an extremely harrowing and difficult start. If I didn't know anything about this religion, my guess would be it will die in the next generation.
Mm-hmm.
Because, one, the most devoted keep killing each other. And two, who is going to want to join, or who is going to be left to spread the religion if the main figureheads of this religion are just, gone?
Yes. Again, the main problem is the problem of succession. Who has the legitimacy of saying, I am the successor to the prophet, and I can hold this up.
But this would be the same issue in the start of an empire, right? It's like if you're trying to start an empire and within 2 generations you keep having civil wars because...
Yeah. This is why the rise of Islam reminds me a lot about the rise of Alexander and the Hellenistic empires, because it's all these people who fought together just a few years ago. Now they're killing each other to figure out who should be ruler after the great person who led them all there was gone. So I really like the parallels. I think they're very interesting. And so this serial is called the first fitna. Fitna means split, conflict.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And there will be more, as the name suggests. Yes. Because before this, Islam was united. Everybody was one community. But after this, we will see the Sunni Shia split show up, where the people who favor Ali will be the Shiites, and the Sunnis will be the ones who favor the other caliphs who came before and who believe that Ali was incorrect.
Right.
We'll meet. But yeah, so we're in the aftermath of the Battle of the Camel, and here we also see some of the issues that would later pop up for Ali, because he ordered that the opposing camp should not be sacked, and only the weapons should be collected. Because he's a pious man. He respected these people. He disagreed with them, but he doesn't want to add insult to injury at this point. But then a soldier replied to Ali, "How is it that it was legitimate that we fight them, but not legitimate to claim their belongings?" Which is one of the many places where, with Ali's wish to be morally pure, clashes with his need to be a secular ruler. Because he is trying to do the pious thing, but also if he wants to keep his army happy, they should just loot the other camp and just
they need to get
their belongings and all that. Yeah. Incidentally, Ali replied to the soldier that he shouldn't ask things he doesn't know and should follow orders. Then after this battle, Ali manages to retake Basra, retake all of Iraq, and appointed a new governor there, and headed west because he had received news that Muawiyah, the Umayyad governor of Syria, had risen up in rebellion. Because Muawiyah had a strong local power base and had basically been in charge of Syria since the conquest. And Muawiyah had taken it upon himself, as the most senior member of the Umayyad family, to avenge Uthman. Because they were relatives, they were cousins. Muawiyah says, well, if Ali is not going to take it upon himself to avenge this murder, then I'm going to have to do it myself.
Yeah.
From the sources, it's a bit unclear if Muawiyah was rebellious ever since Ali became caliph, or if he started his rebellion during or just after the war with Aisha. Because it might be possible that he was biding his time until he could seem as legitimate as possible after Ali's camp began to have some discord. So maybe he heard that people were grumbling in Ali's camp, and so Muawiyah says, okay, well, this is my time to do this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Also, there wasn't really a peace with the Romans, and Muawiyah was controlling that border region, so maybe he was just trying to take time to organize a ceasefire before he could actually look into internal politics.
Mm-hmm.
So Muawiyah had his original demands, which were to, of course, punish the murderers of Uthman. That's the first one. And also for him to be a semi-independent leader of Palestine and Syria.
Mm-hmm.
But Ali refused this. He said, no, we're not splitting the caliphate. This is not how this works. Abu Bakr did this at the start. He reunified this. We are just going to be one polity altogether. The caliphate is going to be the one Muslim state. So this led to Muawiyah preparing his army with the pretext that he hadn't been consulted in the election of Ali as caliph. So, well, I don't recognize her legitimacy. I might have. I think we should just redecide who should be caliph. That's how it should work. Ali then replied that his election was entirely legitimate because he was supported by the same people who supported the previous three caliphs, and Uthman had been killed because the people deemed him unjust, so his killers were not to be punished. Risky take.
Yeah.
From a ruler to say that you can kill the ruler if you think he's unjust.
Yeah.
If you're the ruler, that is a difficult position to take. Because you're kind of legitimizing rebellion against you if they have a good enough reason.
Exactly. So, like as a person from the populace, I think that's great. That you can kill a ruler if you deem them unjust. I think that would be a good failsafe to have. However, that just means as long as you can gather enough people who think that ruler is unjust for one thing or another, whether it's actually because of injustice or just because it serves them to not have that ruler anymore, then yeah, you will always have rebellion. Like literally there's no...
You'll always find someone to do this. So that's a risky argument. But also Ali then attacked Muawiyah personally, because he said that Muawiyah had been among those that were pardoned by Muhammad for resisting his conquest of Mecca in 630. So Muawiyah only converted to Islam when his side had lost. So who does he think he is to tell Ali who should be caliph? Yeah. So there's not much space left for dialogue. They're having a tough time. Although, yes, it is important to point out in this case that Ali is resisting handing over the killers of Uthman because it was just such a large group that wanted Uthman dead. Yeah. That this would tear the Muslim world apart. And Ali was desperately trying to limit the damage as much as he could by holding on to his supporters.
I see. So even if he wanted them dead, like it would just imbalance everything so much that,
Yeah, he's trying to stop the Muslim faith from breaking. He is seeing that it will break if he doesn't intervene. Yeah. So he's trying to do as much as he can. But again, we're having the issue here where it's showing a bit of a double standard, because he had strongly advocated for punishing the murder of Umar, but now he was saying that Uthman's killing was sort of legitimate. Yeah. So
that's an issue. I understand why, but also from the outside, that's not going to be seen nicely. Or kindly.
Yeah. In Ali's defense, what you could say is that Umar had been killed on the orders of a former Sassanid officer, so it was an external murder, while Uthman had been killed by a Muslim mob, so you could sort of see that as a vote of no confidence from the community. But
So in this faith we can just be murderers and it's fine though? I don't know if that's something you want to,
Yeah, it's problematic.
Yeah.
So yeah, Ali's army and Muawiyah's army meet at a place called Siffin on the Euphrates border with Syria. And there were 3 months of negotiations, during which Ali made the offer that he would personally fight Muawiyah. And Muawiyah said, no, I'm not going to fight you, because you're terrifying. You have a sword that the Archangel Gabriel gave you. You have torn a door off a fort to fight people with. This is horrifying. So he sent a champion in his place. The duel quickly turned to Ali's advantage, and when he was about to kill his opponent, the man apparently took off his trousers, at which point Ali left the field because it wouldn't be dignified to fight a man with his pants down. So that's one way to get out of a duel, just pull down your pants. The other guy will feel too awkward to fight you at this point.
I guess.
So fun.
I guess. This is not satisfying.
So in the end, this culminated in a great battle. At first, it seems like Ali's forces were advancing. They were winning more and more, getting more and more ground. Until eventually, Ali's forces saw Muawiyah's soldiers have pieces of paper tied to their spears. Can you guess what was written on the pieces of paper?
These are Ali's soldiers?
These are Muawiyah's soldiers.
Okay.
They were losing, and they suddenly go into battle with these pieces of paper tied to their spears.
Was it either we surrender, or was it parts of the Quran? Or
it was parts of the Quran.
Yeah.
Correct.
I knew it. This is like Cambyses tying cats to their soldiers.
Yeah, very much so. It is very similar. This confuses Ali's men and brings about a pause in the fighting. They're like, okay, well, this is problematic. And not only that, but they start to shout that if there is this dispute, they should consult the Quran and that would give them the answer. Surely, God will know the answer. Surely God has left guidance for us in this document. At the same time, Muawiyah appealed to Ali's Iraqi soldiers, who were sort of a bit disgruntled. They were unhappy that he hadn't let them sack the enemy camp. They were slightly disagreeing. And so this eventually forced Ali to the bargaining table. But in general, the mood was already very sour during the battle. And Al-Tabari tells us that 2 brothers met on the field of battle and refused to fight each other. And in another case, members of the same tribe had refused to fight each other. Because this is really a war between people that know each other. And everyone is unsure if it's worth it. Like, why are we fighting? Why can't we just come to a compromise and agree? And so Ali, despite winning the battle, he has now been brought to the bargaining table because nobody really has their heart in this fight. So it was then decided that both sides would choose an arbiter, and together they would come to a binding decision based on the Quran. However, if the Quran didn't have the answer, the arbiters could also consider the traditions passed down by Muhammad. Although one point of discussion was whether the arbiter should represent the Iraqis or Ali. In the end, Ali was forced to go for an Iraqi arbiter who would favor more local autonomy.
Forced? In what way?
Well, he was forced to send somebody who didn't have his personal interests at heart, but more the interests of the army.
Okay, I see.
Because apparently the people began to threaten him by saying, either you do what we tell you to do, or we kill you like we killed Uthman.
Yeah, that makes sense. When the army tells
So Ali is kind of a hostage of his own army.
Yeah.
Which is a problem.
Yeah.
Another element of the discussion, which was problematic, was that during the discussion, Ali wouldn't be officially called caliph, but only Ali, because Muawiyah would not have fought a legitimate caliph.
I see.
And so he's saying, well, you'll just be Ali, I'll be Muawiyah, we can just talk man to man. However, people disagreed. Ali's supporters were saying, what, so we're just giving up now? We're just saying, oh, well, you were never a legitimate caliph, so what were we doing all this time? What do you mean? And Ali retorts that actually there's precedent for Muhammad. You know, I knew the man, I was there. Because during a treaty with some unbelievers, they did not want to call him the prophet. But Muhammad accepted that, you know, if this brought the treaty to a conclusion, he was fine to just be called Muhammad. All this is part of a twinning of Muhammad and Ali, which you can see all across the story of his life, from being Muhammad's decoy during the escape from Mecca, to fighting against the unbelievers for Muhammad, or in Ali's case, fighting the Umayyads who had converted last. So there's this whole symmetry between Ali and Muhammad going on. How do you think Ali's supporters react to this desire for mediation? How do you think they react to this sort of treatment?
Well, I mean, it depends, because I understand the will to be like, well, we don't, why are we taking this? We are being disrespected. We should be much more assertive. We're being treated poorly, and, we should stand up for ourselves and not necessarily have to bend down and allow to be stepped on. On the other hand, you do have like an entire army telling you to stop, or you are basically being threatened by forces that are much more powerful than whatever you can do at the moment. So I feel like you have to be somewhat sensible about it, right?
Yeah, the problem is that people don't like sensible.
Okay. But like they see that like the threat is big, right? Or are they just not aware
They do.
that Ali is being threatened? Like,
I mean, they see it, but also they're thinking like, well, why doesn't he just do things properly? Why isn't it just fine? It's easy. I could do this caliph thing,
Didn't he kill a third of an army on his own? Was that him? Yeah.
Yeah, that was him.
Where's his magic sword now?
This is essentially the old men at a pub saying, bloody government, put me in charge one day and I'll solve all this.
Yeah,
like,
I don't know why they're
doing,
having trouble solving something so simple. Like, even I could do it. Come on.
Yeah. So all this decision starts to break apart Ali's coalition, because the original plan the Iraqis had accepted was to make a decision based on the Quran.
Yeah.
But now there's this extra clause of using tradition as well, so whose tradition are we respecting? Because we all agree on the Quran,
what does that mean?
But what traditions are we going for?
Mm-hmm.
That's when Muawiyah said that the arbiter should consult the Quran about the justice of Uthman's murder. And the Iraqis believe this was just.
Sure. I mean, yeah, if you can't come to a conclusion that like feels right, then might as well ask God.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Ali was then forced to say that he wouldn't accept the results of the arbitration, but he went back on this when he was back safe in Kufa, in the city he was using as a base. But at this point, this caused those opposed to the agreement to secede, calling themselves Kharijites. Probably from the Arabic kharaja, which means to exit or go out, parentheses, from Ali's army. Because they believed that the judgment belonged to God alone, so only the Quran, and that rebels like Muawiyah should be crushed. We should not be negotiating with these people, we should just kill them all. That's what should happen. These rebels then gathered in a place called Nahrawan, near Ctesiphon, where they waited and were generally a nuisance to the local populations. Some sources hostile to the Kharijites say that they would harass the local villages by asking people religious questions and killing them if they got the answer wrong. So, these people are somewhat temperamental. It's also interesting to note here that Ali's attempt to compromise and Uthman's attempt to remain firm both failed and in the end brought them to their doom. So, we've had two examples. Honestly, could have anyone handled this? It sounds unlikely.
Yeah, no, this makes me feel the same way as when I tried to play a Choose Your Own Adventure game or book. And it feels like no matter what I choose, I chose the wrong option. But then you see, like, it's sort of interesting to see someone else choose the other option and still just do badly. Sometimes, sometimes the situation is just doomed.
Quite, yeah.
Because it's not just, it doesn't just hinge on the one person.
No, definitely not. But the arbitration is still going on, Serial. So what are they deciding? They've been discussing for a while. What do they come up with? Because they first wanted to look at, was the murder of Uthman legal according to the Quran?
Right.
And they decided, no, Uthman's acts had not been unjust. He was working to the best of his abilities, and so his murder was illegal.
Yeah.
And Ali said, nah, that's not following the Quran or tradition, so it's null and void.
But what do you mean? How is, like,
He was
what
basically
part
saying,
is...
I disagree. He was saying, I actually think Uthman was being unjust.
Okay.
So, actually, I don't think that this is right. And then he tried to gather a new army, but before facing Muawiyah, he headed to Nahrawan, where the Kharijites were staying, and he tried to speak to them and get them to join him. He was saying, listen, the arbitration is clearly crap. I understand. I agree with you now. Let's go kill Muawiyah. Let's go together. And yeah, at Nahrawan, he told the Kharijites, we're going to fight Muawiyah and ignore the arbitration. So we're all happy, right?
Are we?
But the Kharijites demanded that Ali first declare his sin in originally saying he would accept the arbitration.
Right.
Ali said, I can't do that. I'm the caliph. This is not how this negotiation works.
Yeah.
I gave in. You can't get me to like humiliate myself publicly by saying that I was wrong to do this in the first place. And so there was a great battle where he massacred many of the dissidents, although he did have mercy on those who surrendered. But overall, this is just a very bad look for Ali because it's a bonus for Muawiyah, because Muawiyah has presented himself as the reasonable man who just wants to negotiate. He doesn't want to kill fellow Muslims. He just wants to, let's all just look at the Quran and see what we're meant to do. Surely we can just sort this out. Why is Ali killing all these people? He doesn't have to. And so this is a serious enough issue for Ali that a lot of his army starts to leave, and he has to regroup in the city of Kufa before going to fight Muawiyah himself. There's also a fun parallel where Ali asked the Kharijites to give up the killers of some of his men, and they replied that they had been killed justly, so they would not comply. Which is a fun parallel to what's going on with Muawiyah before. But the arbitration is still going on, Serial. What's happening? Let's see who these men that nobody's listening to are discussing. Because in the end, they decided, you know what? If we disagree on the caliphate, let's just depose Ali and Muawiyah, and then we can just decide equally, both as laymen. We can say, okay, fine, we can just elect a caliph. And if we agree on Ali, great. If we agree on someone else, we can do that too.
Sure.
We can do a council like the one that elected Uthman. We can select people that we respect and go forward that way. So the two spokespeople go up and give a declaration. Ali's representative goes in front of the crowd and says, I officially depose Ali as caliph. And then he points to Muawiyah's representative. And Muawiyah's representative says, well, if Ali isn't caliph anymore, I propose Muawiyah to be caliph. This is a problem.
Yeah, you don't say.
Ali's representative has been bamboozled by going first in the conversation. So, even though Ali doesn't accept this, he has been officially deposed by his own representative.
Yep.
I
don't know why anybody expected this to go well.
Yeah, it's a difficult time. So while Ali was regrouping in Kufa, Muawiyah gained more and more support, such as the support of Egypt and the west of Arabia, the Hijaz, the region with Mecca and Medina, while he started to attack the rest of Arabia and Iraq. So he's enclosing. Ali now has only the east of the empire, and his support is rapidly shrinking. And then, one morning in early 661, Ali went to pray in a mosque in Kufa, where he was struck with a poisoned sword by Kharijites, who wanted to avenge the massacre at Nahrawan. But the Kharijites were wise and crafty, because they planned parallel attacks on all of the leaders who were claiming to be caliph. They set an attack on the same day, on the same morning, against Muawiyah to murder him as well, and on the governor of Egypt, who isn't important enough to mention by name.
Oh my god. The shade. I guess it's a good time to just murder everybody who was like...
Yeah, and if we murder everybody,
yep,
we can rule the ashes. It'll be great.
No, it makes sense. You don't get it. Why be proactive when you can just burn everything to the ground?
So Ali's assassin came towards him and went to strike him with a sword, but the sword was blocked by the frame of the arch above Ali's head. So only essentially grazed Ali, but the sword was terribly poisoned. On the other hand, the assassin of Muawiyah tried to attack him, but only grazed Muawiyah's posterior. And that sword was not poisoned, so Muawiyah managed to survive. However, Ali was fatally poisoned. He was fatally wounded and slowly dying. He spent the next 2 days, it's 27th of January, 661, first of all asking his assassin to be treated kindly and be killed quickly only if Ali did not survive. And he gave a final testament to his children, Hassan Hussein. Ali recommended them to be true to the religion and, most importantly, to abide by the Quran. But he does not say that he should follow the example of the caliphs.
Mm-hmm.
Something that Ali had refused to do when Uthman was elected. And this led to the seed of Shia Islam, which essentially sees, according to most mainstream versions of Shia Islam, sees the first 3 caliphs as illegitimate. And actually, Ali is the only legitimate one. He was meant to be caliph at the start, everybody else was wrong.
I guess we have done that with some of our rulers in this podcast before as well.
Yeah, exactly.
We've had
when
periods
you need to choose legitimacy.
Yeah.
And Sunni Muslims do see Ali as legitimate caliph, but they see him only as the 4th in a series.
Right. Yeah.
So there's this thing.
I feel like this is the least problematic part of the difference between the Sunni and the Shia. Like agreeing on the number of the caliph, that's whatever.
And
I feel like we've had way worse things to discuss about.
There will be so many things to discuss, Sarah. It will lead us to the modern day. But yeah.
Ooh,
However, Sarah, what do you think goes with the succession? Because Ali's followers ask him, and who should succeed you as caliph? What do you think Ali says? Because his sons are there with him.
Yeah, don't we have...
And Muawiyah is claiming to be caliph. And there are still others to whom paradise was promised that are still living.
Does he do an Alexander bit and is like, oh, do the strongest or whatever? I don't...
Not
has
exactly,
he
but not
shown
too
any
far.
sort of like plan at all?
I mean,
I feel like
expected to live longer.
Yeah, I feel like we've been expecting, or we've been so on the fence on whether he is going to be caliph or not. Because everyone's just, even when he was like actually finally made caliph, everyone else was like, no, but wait, you know. I feel like
very shaky.
We haven't had a moment to think about, does he appoint one of his sons?
Well, Ali's followers ask him, should your son Hassan succeed you? Should we swear allegiance to him? Ali simply said he would not order them to do so, but he would not forbid them from doing so.
Dude, this is not the moment. This is not the moment for this sort of thing. Be a decent leader. Lead. Oh my god.
Which left the succession very shaky, and a lot of people flocking to Muawiyah's position where he says, no, I'm the legitimate caliph. Look at me, I have the west of the caliphate, and Ali is dead now. Also, is this a succession thing? Can we just give the caliphate to our son? Is that a thing we can do now? I thought this was an elected position. So ultimately, on the 27th of January, Ali died, and he was then buried in secret near Kufa. But a few centuries later, the tomb would be found and became the center of the city of Najaf, which is one of the holiest cities in Shia Islam. And with the death of Ali ends the Rashidun Caliphate, or the Righteous Caliphate, that saw the first explosion of Islam on the scene, leading to the dynastic and more disunited period of the Umayyad Caliphate with Muawiyah as its head. So we'll start a new dynasty next time with the Umayyad Caliphate as we see how Muawiyah manages to consolidate the caliphate and try and essentially stop it from exploding, because it hasn't been very long and it seems to be crumbling. And as you said, if you didn't know any better, you would say Islam is going to tear itself apart now.
Yeah, I am still, like, obviously I know I am from the future, but I'm still
yes,
so extremely confused as to how it's going to happen. Because this is one of the most shaky beginnings that we've seen of anything. Then again, on this empire, we've already seen before that sometimes it looks like everything is going to be burned to the ground and then suddenly it rises for 3 generations.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I mean, and sometimes you pull an Alexander and the empire collapses and burns and
yeah,
goes into 30 years of civil war and death and destruction and nothing beside remains. So, yeah.
curious.
So, Serial, what did you think about Ali's episode? One of the holiest figures in Shia Islam, in some versions of the Shahada, which is essentially the profession of faith in Islam, which is all you need to really convert to it.
Mm-hmm.
So the Shahada is, there is no God but God and Muhammad is his prophet.
Right, yeah.
Some branches of Shia Islam add on to the end of that, and Ali is his successor.
I see. Oof.
So he is very, very important for Shia Islam. But what did you think after listening to this episode? What were your expectations? Did you expect it to go better or worse? What are your hopes and fears for the future?
I was really hoping for some stability. You know, to
Yes,
kickstart
we all
something
do.
new.
Yes.
I guess none of that. Yeah, odd. I'm really glad we're recording these because I'm definitely going to have to re-listen to this again because there's so many names. And
Yes,
so many like
definitely.
important mentions. This and the previous episode I'm going to have to like study.
It's also a very dense time period. It's not like we've gone over 80 years and so
No,
much
this
has
is
happened.
all,
It's
like-
just no. This is
Yeah.
very thin. All these people, they know each other. They've
they all
been
live
there.
in the same time.
Yeah. Also, all these people, none of these were born Muslim. They all converted to Islam
Yeah, well, these are the
in
first.
their lifetimes.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. It's the first generation.
I need to re-listen to these episodes. I'm so bad with names, and there's so many important figures that I need to make sure that like I follow each one on their journey, you know, and I don't mix them up.
Yeah, it's fair.
Wow.
So, Serial, are you ready to rate Ali ibn Abi Talib?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Our first category is final moments. How interesting was his death? Sort of being part of a synchronized murder where he is stabbed by a poisoned sword and eventually just dies after a couple days of agonizing.
I mean, dramatic for sure.
After telling his followers, I don't know, support my son or don't. I'm not the boss of you.
Right? Wild. I'm not the boss of you? No, you literally are. What?
So how would you rate this? I think it's less dramatic than Uthman. I think because
Yeah,
Uthman's murder is the
Uthman's
original
murder is
sin that breaks
yeah,
Islam.
Is very like legendary, sort of, you know, very storytelling wise. Yeah. This is more bloody in a way, but way more typical, more human.
Yeah, exactly.
People wanting to assassinate each other for power. Yeah.
So I feel like a murder is always interesting. It wasn't a murder by people who personally knew him. It doesn't have that punch that Uthman's murder had, where it's like the first murder of a Muslim by a Muslim, essentially.
Yeah.
You know, it's very Cain and Abel.
Mm.
But yeah, so I'm starting off with a 6. What are your feelings? I could be persuaded upwards. I don't think I could be persuaded downwards, but upwards I could go.
No, I think. Well, it's still a significant death, but I think a 6 makes sense.
Okay, fair enough.
I feel like my ratings are so inconsistent throughout this entire podcast. So
I mean,
if someone
listen,
comes
Sarah.
here and is like, I wonder what they meant with this and that. I depends on the day I'm having. Truly.
Yeah. If someone is looking for objectivity, there are other podcasts. to do
Yes.
that. It's fine.
This is just vibes.
So with a 6 and a 6, he gets a 6 out of 10 for final moments. Our next category is battle hardness. How good was he at war and fighting? Well, quite. I mean, you know, there's
Apparently
so many
it was
events.
incredible. Apparently, just
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. Like,
except for saving his own like legitimacy, I guess.
because like when he was acting as a decoy for the Prophet in Mecca during the Hijrah, he fought off his attackers with a sword. He was given a sword by the Archangel Gabriel,
Yeah.
and he just killed a third of an army. He ripped a door off a fort and murdered everyone inside of it. He was essentially one of the greatest fighters in Islam, where he just killed so many. Like, I didn't go through with it because it doesn't mean much to us as an audience who isn't involved with this, but there are so many named characters he kills.
Oh, wow.
You know, in the early history of Islam. It's basically like the Iliad when somebody gets an Aristaea and he's just like carving a path through all these named heroes that were echoed through eternity, and he's just like killing them all.
Random nameless soldiers, but like actual important figures.
Yeah, exactly. Not just red shirts. These people have like agents and everything.
Whoa.
So he killed all these people. He was extremely great in battle, and he was thoroughly recognized by... I mean, he was so recognized that either the Archangel Gabriel or the Prophet Muhammad said that there is no soldier like Ali and there is no sword like Zulfikar.
Yeah.
That's a pretty impressive thing to be said about you. So that was great. And then afterwards, in later years, he doesn't participate in the expansion of the caliphate because, as we've seen, he fundamentally disagrees with the first 3 caliphs.
Yep.
Doesn't really agree with them. He will respect them, but he doesn't agree with them, so he's not going to participate. But then when he eventually becomes caliph, he wins the Battle of the Camel. He personally ends the battle by cutting the tendons off this camel. And so he's very powerful. He does a great job there. At the Battle of Siffin against Muawiyah, he is winning until Muawiyah pulls the Quran trick. And then, by negotiating, Ali loses, essentially. When he fights the Kharijites in Nahrawan, he does manage to win and defeat them. So he is undefeated in battle, and he is one of the greatest warriors of the age. But ultimately, that does not save him. But we're talking about battle hardness. So how would you rate that? Because he is essentially one of the architects of unifying Arabia for Islam. He is one of the greats there. And personally, his fighting prowess is extraordinary. And he wins battles as caliph. The only downside I could say here is that he doesn't conquer vast arrays of land. But also you could say that, well, when Islam was being born, they were just like a small local tribe, and then they went to unify Arabia. Isn't that impressive? Like, you know, if you look at the proportional sizes, then, you know, going from the city of Medina to all of Arabia is pretty impressive compared to, say, Alexander conquering the Achaemenid Empire. How do you think those things compare? How would you rate them? Because I think my question is, do we give him a 10 because he was so outstanding, he was so great? Or is the fact that he didn't go through these great conquests, that doesn't count? It's not worth a 10. It's not an Alexander grade.
For me, it's not that much the actual size of like geographical land mass that, you know, that he conquered, but the sense of it served him no favors.
But you could also say that at the start it definitely did, because if he hadn't fought as well as he did during the start, maybe Islam just would not have gone off the ground. Maybe Muhammad would have been defeated and Ali wouldn't have won. He wasn't caliph, but it still counts. It still counts as his rating, as who he is as a person.
Yeah. I wouldn't go with a 10, though.
You wouldn't go for a 10?
No.
Because I was just looking at some past scores, and his counter-argument to myself saying he didn't conquer great lands, I would look at Shapur I. He conquered some bits of Mesopotamia and defeated the Romans a bunch of times, but he didn't conquer many great lands.
Yeah, it's not always about conquering. It's about like prowess in battle.
Yeah, another one is Mithridates the Great. He stopped the nomads for 300 years. And you could make the argument that Ali, through his fighting, stopped Arabia from being pagan forever.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's another option. And of course, another 10 is Alexander. But
I feel like once he made it to as caliph, it basically immediately fizzled away.
That's true, yeah.
Power,
but is that more his political problems, or should we consider his battle as being flawless, but then politically he had the issues that we've seen?
I guess that makes sense. You've convinced me. I think a 10 makes sense if it's like so impressive.
You think it? I honestly don't know. I think you've convinced me to a 9 or something.
I feel like a 9
'Cause
feels right for me, but I don't know why I would detract that point other than vibes. Like,
I feel like, again, it's the sort of thing, it's very much like Hannibal knew how to gain victory but not how to use it type thing.
yeah.
Where it was like, you did win a lot of times, you never lost, but ultimately, you lost, quote unquote, the game.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I'm 9 or 10, 9 or 10. I think he is such a legendary warrior in Islam, I will go for a 10. Just because, again, I did him dirty by not mentioning all the early wars because they were not related to Persia. They were not relevant to our story. But I think I'm just going to push him to that 10 because I'm just impressed enough by what I've heard.
Hmm.
How about you? Are you staying with a 9, sort of tempering this total score, or are you saying that no, he deserves maximum?
I'll stay with a 9. I think that's what my gut
Okay,
was telling
fair
me,
enough.
you know?
I think that's reasonable. I like the fact that it's not full marks, but it's just under. But there we go. So with a 10 and a 9, he gets a 19 out of 20 for battle hardness. Our next category is scheminess. How good was he at plots and manipulations? He doesn't seem very schemy as a man. Like he's very straightforward. When he could have manipulated the election to the caliph, he was there piously taking care of the prophet's body.
Yeah.
When he was offered the caliphate by the rebels in exchange for deposing Uthman, he said, no, I don't want to do it like this. I can't think of anything where he is being schemy. The one thing that you might be able to say, although again, iffy, is that he first agrees to arbitration on the matter of Uthman's murder, and then eventually he says, no, actually, I'm not going with that. I'm not agreeing with you. So I think that might be worth a 1, perhaps, but he is just such a straight down the line guy that I don't.
True.
There's not.
I don't
much
think
there
this
that
was.
I can see.
I don't think anything that he did felt schemy to me. Like it was difficult decisions to make, and but none of it felt done through lies or through manipulation.
Yeah.
I feel like he was pretty straightforward on it, or where he stayed, which was kind of the problem too.
Yeah, exactly. I think I'll stick with a 0. How about you?
Yeah, same.
So with a 0 and a 0, he gets a 0 out of 20 for scheminess. Our next category is shock factor. How shocking was this man? Well, he might be the first Muslim man. That's interesting.
A lot.
Or, one of the first few in any case. It was kind of shocking that despite disagreeing with the early caliphs, he just faithfully just did his job.
Yeah.
And just kept compiling the Quran
kind of
and doing a good job.
Was, right?
Yeah, exactly. But, you'd expect other people to try and work in the shadows to manipulate and, when Uthman is now in trouble, this is my chance to shine. But Ali is just, no, I want to do things by the book. I want to be specific. And even, for example, during the election of Uthman, when Ali is asked, will you follow the tradition of the Prophet and the caliphs and the Quran? He says, yes, the Prophet and the Quran, but the caliphs, no, I want to be my own man. He could have just lied.
Yeah.
He could have just lied and become caliph earlier.
True.
But he chose not to because of his integrity. So that's important. Then we have the shock factor is the fitna is the main one, essentially. Because he fights with people who he's fought with to make Islam be a thing. He fights with them. He kills them. He fights with Muhammad's favorite wife.
Yep.
He has her eventually retire to Mecca or Medina, I can't remember. He is the one starting the first war between Muslims.
Yeah.
He could have just given up, but he thought he was enough in the right that he decided that it was worth going to battle. Then he goes for this arbitration and doesn't respect it. He sort of splits Islam, and it's whether it's his fault or not is a debate, but he seems to be trying to hold Islam together, but ultimately by holding it tightly, it breaks.
Yep.
Then eventually he sort of leaves the succession in a bit of a messy situation by saying, I don't know, support my son or don't.
I can't. Oh my god. Normal things to do, I guess. Sure.
Yeah. So I feel like there are more shocking men, but there is a level of shock factor there.
You don't say. Yeah.
What is your orientation, Sarah? What do you expect? What is your feeling here?
There's so many points. I'm feeling like I would probably go for an 8 or a 9.
An 8 or a 9? Wow, okay.
For shock factor? Yeah, are you kidding?
An 8 or a 9? That's wild. Who did you give an 8 to? You gave an 8 to Kavad for a communist revolution.
True. I mean, like, this guy has legends.
You gave a 9 to Cambyses for throwing cats.
The first man to convert to Islam.
Fair.
The first, like, is related in the family of Muhammad, the Prophet.
Yes.
Married to his daughter, right? To Muhammad's daughter.
His adoptive brother, his adoptive son, his son-in-law, and cousin.
Yes. He also was a decoy for Muhammad to, like, get away from...
True, that was very impressive.
From assassins. He apparently has legends about him using this magical sword that the Archangel Gabriel gave to Muhammad in battle.
Fair.
He then did all of these weird moves of, like... Or weird, like... Could have had a way more straightforward path to being caliph, but, faith was most important, or, like, family was more important, or, Then it finds himself in this huge mess of this schism in this faith, where he seems to be, like, the reason why so many people are disagreeing. He decides to just, like, once he's been poisoned, to just not even mention an heir properly, but be like, I guess, do whatever, I don't care. Like, all of these things. That last one is truly the one, when you said it, I was like, oh, I'm giving him so many shock factor points, because what do you mean?
Yeah. Probably the pain and the poison were doing their effect.
Either his life, his situations in life, or his decisions have been so wild to me.
Yeah. I imagine that also at the end he must have been very depressed. I would be.
I mean, sure.
When I see everything I've built all my life just slowly crumbling before my eyes, I'm like, you know what? Sure, support him or don't. Whatever.
Yeah.
But, okay, you know what? You've talked me up there. I
don't know why you thought that this was too much.
I think I'm going to go for a 7 because I don't think he is going full Mad King, which is what I like for a higher score.
I mean,
but I think 7 is fully deserved. Sure. What are you going for? 8, 9?
I'll go for an 8 to go over your
your
7.
Good.
But it's ridiculous. Like, what?
Yes.
Anyway.
So with a 7 and an 8, he gets a 15 out of 20 for shock factor. Our next category is Aaron Shine. How good was he for the Empire in general and Iran in particular? Well, Iran didn't show up in our story much, so it's mostly just plodding along as it did, being occupied by a foreign force and just slowly getting accustomed to it. Actually, Iran is going to be a base for these Kharijite rebels for quite a while in the future, so that's interesting. But in general, what is he for the caliphate? For the caliphate, he takes control after the murder of Uthman in a very precarious succession situation, and he basically takes the caliphate through a long civil war. So he fights a bunch of people, he sort of wins, he tries to stabilize the caliphate, he replaces all of the Umayyad governors because he thinks that would be most effective, although that does essentially prompt the rebellions. And he seems to be quite lenient on taxation. He's very generous that way. That's one of the policies we see of him.
Mm-hmm.
And then in his fight with Muawiyah, he is sort of reluctant to spill blood of fellow Muslims, but he will do it. And ultimately, this whole arbitration seems to erode the authority of the caliph, and he eventually becomes more and more isolated in his city after there's a schism in the Muslim faith, and then he dies after being murdered without really nominating an heir with his full support.
Which, ridiculous.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, I think it would be difficult to argue that the caliphate is better after him than it was before. Like, the fitna is an irreparable wound in the caliphate. You know, it's not been repaired to this day. It's something that has just been, you know, it's a wound that is still bleeding to this day. So it's painful and difficult. I'm wondering between like a 3 and a 4 because the caliphate is still around. It's been damaged seriously, but also he seems to have his heart was in the right place. He did what he could to help the caliphate. We should also maybe consider in points the fact that he helped found the caliphate. You know, without him, maybe it wouldn't have been around. He was, you know, a key element of this. So I think I've talked myself up to a 4, as in like it's worse off, but he did so much for it at the start that I want to recognize it, but I don't know if I can give anything more. What are you thinking?
4 seems right. It's just everything is so all over the place.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I will match you. I mean, it was a good, good argument, I have to say.
So with a 4 and a 4, he gets an 8 out of 20 for Aaron Shine. Our next category is Face of Faces. What do you think this man looked like? And we have a description from Al-Tabari, who tells us that Ali was a tawny man, markedly so, with heavy and large eyes, corpulent, bald, tending to shortness. Okay, so Cyril has finished their portrait. Let me pick it up and describe it to you all. Ooh, all right. Fun. I like it. It's a good vibe. So, yeah, we see Ali here with light coming from his left. I don't know if you've given him any hair. He looks bald. But yeah, I think that was part of the description.
Yes.
But yeah, so he looks bald. He has he has grey eyebrows, a grey, short-ish, but well-kept beard, because the man was in his 60s at the end of his life.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he has this tawny skin, strongly built, and he is looking off towards the audience. He looks tired. I feel like he might want a break.
This is not at all how I was imagining him, in as much as I was imagining him during the episode, but you know what? I think it works.
I think it works. I also like the light in his eyes. That's very good. It's very
Thank you.
Characteristic. Yeah. You can essentially just see the silhouette of his shoulders falling out, and he's on this white background as he is contemplating what to do with his life because so many things have happened. Okay, thank you, Cyril. That's brilliant. If anybody wants to see this lovely portrait, you can go to the episode notes in the description or on our website in Cyril's portrait gallery. Now, Cyril, let me show you what he looked like. We don't have a contemporary portrait, but this is, again, a manuscript from the 16th century, where we just have essentially people giving the oath of allegiance to Ali. I'm pretty sure you can guess who he is.
Did that even happen, or like did we just skip through it? I feel like
it was at the start. It was at the beginning.
I assume,
was like, oh yeah, that's that guy. So here we go. Tell us what you think.
Oh, I love these paintings. It's so cool. So his flaming halo is awesome. I assume that is Ali.
Yes,
in
that
the
is
center.
The one dressed entirely in green with a flaming halo is Ali.
Yes.
Green is the color of Ali and the Prophet. And to this day, there are certain festivals in Iran where the descendants of, Ali and the Prophet, through the line of Hassan and Hussein, wear green as a sign of celebration of their ancestry.
Amazing. Yeah, so he's surrounded by all sorts of people, all wearing white turbans, I guess, while he is wearing a black one and a red underrobe and green robe. The colors are beautiful. Like there's this bright orange and red and yellow and blues. Like it's so pretty. And they're like, you can see part of like the building where they are, where there's geometric decoration on the tiles on the wall, and like vegetation drawn on it, like flowers and sprouts and leaves and
Also,
stuff.
you can see here a servant carrying
Yeah,
an interpretation of Zulfikar.
the dove
You can see this is one of the ways it's interpreted.
pointed sword. Yeah, it looks like a snake stung, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, that is in a scabbard, right?
Yes, it is.
You would not be able to take that sword out.
See, I don't actually. Now that you tell me, I don't know if it's in a scabbard. I can't tell.
Or if it's
It
just
might
the
not
sword
be.
as it is. Yeah.
It might just be gilded. Yeah.
Yeah. Because if that's yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
If that's a
That's
scabbard,
a reasonable logistical point I hadn't
Yes.
considered, but yes, fair enough.
Yeah, this is really pretty. Really sad that it's not contemporary, but I guess, you know.
Yeah, we don't have many contemporary images from the time. So yeah, so how would you rate this portrait? What do you think it's
What I think is worth. I mean,
worth?
I really like it. Like the only reason why I would detract points is because it's not contemporary. It's so like, you know,
Mhm.
up for interpretation. But I quite like it. I love the colors. I love the composition. I would go probably for an 8.
An 8.
Could be convinced
I'm
higher up, but
mostly, again, I'm going with my general principle of having the ones that aren't contemporary. So I'm thinking like a 4 because again, it's nice,
low. Damn.
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
But I think that if it were contemporary, yeah, absolutely, I'd go for an 8 or so. But I don't think it's being from about 1,000 years later. I feel like
I
it's,
guess.
you know, it's just as accurate as your portrait, essentially.
Yeah, I guess so.
But
But it's so cool.
you can see. Well, I mean, you can give it a high score if you like. You're
I'll
entirely
go
entitled to.
down to a 7, but I think 7 feels fine to me.
Okay, sounds good. So, with a 4 and a 7, he gets a 2.8 out of 5 for Face of Faces. Our next category is lengthiness. How long do you think this man reigned? So this is going to be his full reign, actually, because, well, he owned Persia for all of it. But how long do you think it took for, you know, going from the murder of Uthman to the civil war to eventually being murdered? How long do you think that was altogether?
Well, you told me before that he lived up to his 60s. So the question is, when did he start?
Yes.
I feel like it might not have been as early because he's been around the whole time, obviously. But then, you know, there's been other events happening until he was made caliph. So I'll say 10 years, maybe.
10 years, you are quite optimistic, Serial, because
Yeah, I feel it feels like a lot, but you know.
the reign of Ali lasted only 5 years, just under 5 years, actually. From 656 to 661.
Makes sense. It was a mess. Everything was happening at the same time.
Everything was there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so divide that by 10, that gives you a 0.5 out of 5 for lengthiness. Which brings us to the final score, which is a grand total of 51.3 out of 100 for Ali ibn Abi Talib, which puts him just below Cyrus the Great and just above Musa.
Makes sense.
So he is in
you know,
quite a good position. He is an interesting character, definitely.
He is, for sure.
So he's doing quite well. And, well, we'll have to see what happens next. Because we come to the final question, which is to say, is he related to the Prophet enough? Is he tragic enough? Is he leaving the succession to chance enough to be a Shahanshah? Or is he just a Shahanah?
I feel like if our previous contestant got it, he should get it as well.
I agree.
I feel like these are very important figures.
Ali is just so important that it's just like... And also, it's just a good story. Like, you know,
of course.
It's all popping off with Ali because you get to find out where the Sunni Shia split comes from. You get all the story, you know, the event of Ghadir Qum and like, oh, what does this word mean? Is he the heir? Is he not? You get the different Sunni and Shia versions of the story and what happened. And then you get the absolute tragedy that is the first fitna with all these people who, you know, knew each other and loved each other and cared for each other, killing each other because things have got to this point. And I think it's just very dramatic and I really enjoy it. So congratulations, Ali. You can head off into the Paradise Gardens and meet Uthman, whose murder you refuse to avenge. And you can have a discussion about that and see,
I feel like
if
Uthman
you were
might
right about it all along.
agree, knowing his stance, but
I mean, he agreed with the other murder, so
Yeah.
I think it's fine. So there we are.
tough.
So there we go. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We hope you had a lovely time listening to our second Caliph, Ali. And we hope you'll join us next time for Muawiyah the First, where we find out, okay, is this guy going to do any better? Like, he was a relatively late convert to Islam. He is starting a new dynasty. What does it mean that he starts a new dynasty? Like, does it mean that it goes really well, or does it mean that there's a period of chaos that is called a dynasty? Who knows? We need to sort of figure that out. And we'll find out how the Islamic world will develop from there.
Exciting.
In the meantime, if you'd like to support us, there are many ways to do so. One of the ways is our Patreon, where you can join patrons such as our new patrons Niblik III and Tyler Harper.
Thank you.
In enjoying a bunch of extra episodes that will be coming at the time this episode comes out. It should be next week. So you can hear a lot more about people who are around our main characters. So right now, the two front runners for the Patreon poll are the Sassanids of the Shahnameh or the first Caliph. So we get to find out about Abu Bakr, Umar, and then another man called Marwan the First, where we've not met him yet, but he is important for reasons we'll find out, but doesn't technically
Spoilers.
qualify for our causes. Also, if you'd like to support us that way, we have a merch store you could look into if you'd like t-shirts or posters or mugs and stuff like that. Alternatively, if you'd rather support us not monetarily, that's fine. But we'd appreciate if you could give us a review on your podcast app of choice so other people know that, hey, we're back after so many months and we're doing a new thing. So tell us how you're enjoying the new bent that everything has. Also, just to remind you one more time, we have Intelligent Speech coming up and we'll be speaking at it. Go to the Intelligent Speech website to find your tickets and use the code RULE, R-U-L-E, for 10% discount off your tickets. And it also supports the podcast, so that'd be nice. Okay, so after all of this, that is enough from us this week. We hope you have a lovely time, and we'll chat to you soon with Huawei. Goodbye.
Bye.